Hello, my name is Gavin Moody and I'm from Newmarket in Suffolk.
You know, the very essence of the mental game is this. The only reason an event matters is because we make it matter.
Welcome to the Mullins Farrier Podcast.
I had a soccer coach, and he always said, we are going to be the fittest team always out there. Because in the moment, you don't want to be worried about being tired. You want to be focused on the soccer game.
Right.
Which is what's going to translate for me, hopefully, in the CJF, is that I'm not worried about being tired. I can focus on the task at hand.
And granted, he was like, get your specimens made. 3 months before you take your exam, get all your AW specimens made. It's good to have other people putting that pressure on you as well. Sometimes if it's a single journey, and you've not got mentors that are coaching you, helping you, you kind of rest a little bit.
If you're hearing this, you are currently on the non-subscriber feed. If you would like to hear this episode in its entirety, please subscribe using the link below. If you're a student, apprentice, or just find yourself in a situation where it isn't financially feasible to subscribe, please reach out to me on Facebook or through the website. The good folks at Out West Design and Fabrication are lending their support by helping us to cover your scholarship subscription. You can check out many of their incredible projects on their Facebook page. Out West Design and Fabrication, your choice for farrier rakes. Now here's a sample of this week's episode. Thank you for listening.
Most people that I know in this industry only want the best for the other people in the industry, which is a pretty cool thing.
Welcome everyone. This episode comes from another interview I did at Focus last year. Gavin and I were both signed up to do a Make and Fit Day with Spud Allison at his home forge the next week. I didn't realize until the interview that Gavin was using that clinic to prepare for his practical for the AWCF during the same exam that I was doing my first attempt at the associate. I am pleased to report that Gavin knocked it out of the park on exam day and is now one big step closer to his fellowship. This was one of the rare opportunities I had to sit down and pick the brain of someone who works in the racehorse industry as a farrier. And Gavin blew many of my preconceived notions about racehorse plating right out of the water. I realized then how much my knowledge of that industry was based on unfounded myths and misconceptions. You'll hear Gavin mention Jay Tovey and Sarah Logie, who both run Farriery Tuition, a program that has helped many folks along their higher level exams journey. They were who organized our day with Spud, and I highly recommend looking up their clinics and getting Sarah's book, Advanced Farriery Knowledge, if you're looking to up your skills and your knowledge. Gavin and I covered a wide range of topics in this conversation, including his very fortunate start in farriery working under the Curtis brothers, his daily shoeing routine, his least favorite conformation for racehorses, his higher level exams journey, and many other topics. As you will hear, Gavin is a very thoughtful and practical man. I look forward to running into him again to pick his brain even more on all things farriery. I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I did.
I predominantly work with racehorses and I've been working there for about 30 years. I'm also born and bred in Newmarket. So,
Okay.
Yeah, so...
Didn't stray too far from home.
No, only about a mile and a half, actually.
Am I wrong? Did you apprentice with Simon Curtis?
I did, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
What was that like?
Yeah, it was good. It's Simon and Mark, really, his brother, because obviously Simon's the ATF, but Mark was the boss as well. So it was like having two bosses, but I really enjoyed my time there. We had a great bunch of other apprentices at the same time.
Okay.
Mark Trusser, Will and Ed O'Shaughnessy out there, and stuff and Alex Werner. We had a great team of people together.
No
Good
kidding.
thing.
Wow, that would have been quite the group.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how did you get your start in horses? Is it just because you were born in Newmarket? That's what you have to do?
Yeah. But that generally, when you went to school, most people's parents were involved in the horse racing industry.
Right. Yeah.
But I wasn't quite clear on what I was going to do when I left school. And this started, I can remember sort of laying on the sofa. I'd been off school for about 4 days, finished my GCSEs, And my dad walked in and said, "You're not laying there, son." He said, "I've arranged for you to have a trial with the courtesies to be a farrier." And I said, "Oh, when's that?" He said, "Monday." So I did a week's trial with Simon and Mark. Mark Curtis didn't know I was coming.
Okay.
Simon, so I was standing at the door. He didn't know I was coming. And I did my week's work experience. And I got offered a job on a Saturday morning. And I started on the Monday.
Wow.
So,
Okay. And the rest is history.
yeah, sort of just fell into place. I always feel a bit awkward when I hear people say, "Oh, I applied for all these different apprenticeships," and it sort of just happened.
You didn't even have to do it. It
No,
just- yeah.
all I had to do was get off that sofa when my dad said, "You're not sitting there."
Now, were your parents involved in horses?
Yeah. My dad, he came to Newmarket when he was very young, about 14 years old, from London, with the aspirations to be a jockey. And he started off quite well, and it's just a tough to try and make it, and didn't quite get there. But he ended up being head lads of some of the racing yards in Newmarket, and then he progressed to assistant trainer. And then him and his partner, they trained Arabian racehorses for Sheikh Abdullah Al Thani, and they were quite successful.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. And that would have still been in Newmarket?
Yeah, that was in Newmarket for a time. So during his career, he was always in Newmarket, and there's lots of racing yards in Newmarket. And then when they were training for the Sheikh, that was in Newmarket. But over time, it moved to a different place near Lingfield.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And in Qatar as well. So they spent 6 months in England and 6 months in Qatar.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what was your career like? So you started with Simon and
Yeah.
Mark.
So I started with Simon and Mark, and just generally with being in Newmarket, it is virtually all the racing industry, the bloodstock industry, so with the studs and so we would generally be racing yards in the morning, and plating the runners and hoof management. It's a lot more than it seems in the race yards. It's not just turning up and plating them. It's a lot of managing the horses to make sure that they get to the certain races, and
Right.
that you're watching their shoeing plans, because their shoes all wear out at different times, and so some that last a week and some that last 4 weeks. And then in the afternoons, we would go after some of the studs around, and Simon and Mark had some pretty good clients, so we were always in some nice places. We were a bit spoiled, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You lucked out there too.
yeah.
So when you say managing them, so would you have a list of horses to check, and then you wouldn't necessarily be doing that horse that day?
Yeah,
Just
so that's,
because
and it's still the way I run my business now. So I've just copied the way that they ran their business. I currently have 2 apprentices. There's been times when I've had a few more at a time, and I have 3 qualified farriers that work with me. And we start in the yards in the morning, and the first thing the apprentices do is they check round as many horses as possible. Ideally, all of them. You could have 150 to check, but sometimes you're probably going to run into finding one that's sped a shoe overnight, and then you have to abandon the check round and fix the shoe and before it goes out. The general idea is, and what these big successful yards expect, is that they want their horses to pull out on time for exercise. So say, for example, it's 6 o'clock pull out. They don't want to have a shoe, someone about to pull their horse out of the stable and realise there's a shoe off at 6 o'clock, and then the farrier have to fix it.
Okay.
The managing, it's probably the trainer doesn't actually realise what goes on here, but
If you're doing your job right, they have no idea.
So they think everything's fine, but we realise there's actually 2 or 3 shoes that were off this week, and we've quickly fixed them before they've been out, and they've been able to exercise and do their job and then come back in again. And the whole management side of it would be, for example, if a horse is down to run on this coming Saturday, but its shoes are starting to look a bit thin a few days before, you have to start thinking, am I going to re-shoe this horse in steels, or am I going to put aluminium plates on now? Are they going to last until the race? Is it likely to run if I do plate it in there, put the aluminiums on now? Or is it, because obviously once the alleys are on, they're going to wear out quicker than the steel. So there's a lot of juggling and asking questions, but very quickly. You have to get these answers quick, because there is, in racing, there's not a lot of time to think about it. And there's a lot of people that are stressed. They're trying to get an answer out of someone is quite hard sometimes. So it's not for everybody, the racing industry. It
sounds like an early morning, first of all.
Every morning I'm up at 4:15 in the morning.
Right.
Not everybody would start that early, but I get up in the morning and I start writing lists for the lads and what they're going to do. And I'm already in communication with the assistant trainer. He sends me a list at 3:15 in the morning. So I have to keep my phone on silent when I'm in bed. And my missus goes mad when it beeps. And she sees me starting to look at my phone while I'm laying there in bed. Just turn the lights off.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But there's a lot of management involved. You're looking at a lot of horses you're not actually going to be dealing with.
Right.
Or even getting paid for.
Right.
Yeah.
No kidding.
When you're fixing 2 or 3 things in the morning, it's literally fixing them and then moving on to some other stuff.
So you're not being paid to fix those shoes. It's
Not really. Like you could have a shoe that's half hanging off, you quickly take it off, level it, put it back on, or you've got clench up another horse and you're sorting that out, or another horse might have a shoe off overnight, so you fix that. So you're generally not getting paid for them sort of things. That's part of the take the rough with the smoothing.
That's your part of your gig.
Yeah, so I mean, when you've got like 100 odd horses in one place, and then when you do start to kick on for the day, then you've got quite a few to do and then no traveling around. So other people might charge for them things, but I don't really. It's just
part of your package.
Part of the package, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and it runs smoothly like that, and that way, obviously, the trainer doesn't think there's much going wrong unless he's listening to this now.
Don't worry, we'll put it behind the paywall.
Yeah.
When you're doing that many horses and managing that many horses, how many yards would that be? Or
well,
is it
I've
just
really at the moment there was a time when we had a lot more, but I've got 2 fairly big size yards at the moment, and I know you can actually, something Simon always said to me and Mark is, for example, if you have 100 racehorses, it's like having 150, because some will, the rate that they go through their shoes and then when they get plated, so it's not just doing one horse every 4 weeks or 6 weeks. One might have 1.5 sets on in a month. One might have 2 sets on in a month.
Okay.
One might only have 1 set on in a month. So generally speaking, it's you add half on again to what they are.
Oh, yeah.
For example, one of the biggest yards I do, they have an 8-mile trip every day, 4 miles to leave and 4 miles back. So it's a lot of wear and tear on the shoes.
Okay.
Especially when they're just in 3/4, 5/16 aluminium. And yeah, so
just disappears quickly on you.
Yeah.
How long would a pair of aluminum shoes last?
It's always quite surprising as well, because some horses get through them ever so quickly, maybe in about 10 days. Some horses can last a duration about 3.5 weeks or longer. Okay. It never fails to surprise me. You see some really big, heavy horses, you think it's going to get through them quick, and then you see these the small ones with small feet, and then they're just wearing them out really quickly.
Okay.
So, yeah, you soon learn which ones they are, and then you learn to check them ones more. Like the lads say, we haven't checked that course for a while, you better go and check it, and then you check it and realise, it does need doing it.
Right. And pardon my ignorance, I'm not super familiar with the racehorse industry. So when they're actually racing, are they always wearing aluminum plates?
Before I let you go, I wanted to say a few things about my favorite forge by Fletcher Forge and Tool, the brainchild of our in-house business guru, Andrew DeVisser. Years ago, I worked for a company that sold wood and pellet stoves. They were a high-end stove, and this was largely to do with the heavy gauge steel they used in their units. My old boss often used the line, "You can't make a fire in a tin box." Andrew at Fletcher Forge and Tool embraced the same philosophy. One look at the robust construction of his FFT 100, and you'll probably be retiring with that forge. Look for them online at FletcherForgeandTool.com or visit Professional Farrier Supply or Wellshod to pick up yours today. If you would like to hear this episode in its entirety, please subscribe using the link in the show notes. Thank you for listening.